Today's guest is a yogi, a Polish ceramic artist, and a model. She comes from Kinnelon, New Jersey, but now resides in sunny Los Angeles, California. Her self-healing journey began with a scoliosis diagnosis when she was 14. She came to find yoga as a means to alleviate the pain in her body. As her love for yoga grew, she eventually was called to complete her 200-hour yoga teacher training with Sacred Paths Yoga. She received her training from Sam Bianchini and Karen O'Connor, who also turned out to be my teachers. We recently met through Sam in LA, and her playful, abundant lifestyle has intrigued me since. Let's welcome Natalia Konopka to the show. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Jackson.
So I'd love to start out with just asking you if you have a certain spirit animal that really you align with or that speaks to you.
I love elephants. I recently just went to South Africa and I was able to just observe them like in their environment and not confined in a zoo. And I just loved watching them. They're just so calm, and I don't know, you never really hear any aggressive stories about them. So I loved watching them. And also I used to collect them as a kid. I used to collect glass elephants growing up. So I feel attached to them.
I love that. That's so awesome. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, so I would love to hear a little bit more about your life journey and what led you down the path you walk today.
Yeah, so you kind of touched upon it in the beginning. I started yoga when my mom actually went to a class that was 10 minutes down the street, which is so crazy to think about because there are no yoga studios in Kinnelon, New Jersey, like around Kinnelon, New Jersey. If you look anything outside of the studio that I went to, it was like probably 10 to 15 miles away, which I'm so blessed to have. And I had the most amazing teachers. Like, it wasn't really like a workout studio. It was more of a spiritual practice. Like, they had like Kundalini and Hatha yoga, which is so crazy to me because in LA it's so there's just only like workout studios, like
Yeah, very
workout yoga
power
studios, like
oriented.
power, yeah, vinyasa, like using words like push and pull and all of that stuff. So that was my first introduction to yoga at 14. And I was hooked ever since then. I didn't do any sports growing up. I honestly just did pottery all 4 years of high school, and that's kind of how I got into that as well. And yeah, that was my like foundation of life, honestly. And then I started veering away from it when I went to college. I did the whole college thing. My parents are I'm first generation. My parents are from Poland, and they really wanted me to go to college, and I really wanted to experience it as well because I really didn't know much about it. I kind of just went and I said I want to be in the warmth, so I went to University of Tampa. Quickly found out that it wasn't for me, but I stayed for the next 3 years and really just powered through trying to graduate early with my bachelor's of marketing. And yeah, I kind of lost sight of everything that like I loved because I was just, discovering new things in life, like growing into an adult, being without the parents for the first time, super exciting. And lost track of that. Then COVID hit and I was actually graduating college. So that was like, no one knew what was happening, especially me like graduating. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to figure it out. And then everything stops, which was super fun. But the world was like my oyster. Honestly, that's how I felt. about it. And I was like, where haven't I been in this world yet? Or at least in this country, because traveling abroad was really hard. So I was like, my friend was like, come to Los Angeles with me. And I was like, okay, stayed there for a month. And then I was like, I'm just going to live here because there's nowhere else to go right now, and started building my life out here. Um, and yeah, just started going back to my roots. I felt like a little lost, like everything was kind of unknown. I mean, everyone was in that situation, which made me feel like kind of it comforted me because I knew I wasn't alone when I like knew I was going to graduate and I would feel like a little lost, but like everyone was in that seat in that time. So I really just went back into what I used to do, yoga and ceramics, and I've just been trying to like master those in and of itself. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Amazing. Yeah, I love that. And I can definitely resonate. And I believe a ton of other people out there too. Like COVID was just such a kind of transformative time and kind of just like it was a big standstill, but it was also a time to really like take a step back and like really kind of see like what do I want to do? Where do I want to spend my time? And especially graduating college, because I feel like I graduated a college a year after that, but that was like going into my senior year. And it was, I think it's just like a double whammy when you're gonna have that transition coming out of college regardless. And then to put COVID on it
Yeah.
really just shook things up even more.
Oh,
But
for sure. You kind of just had to suck it up and grow up. Got to
yeah,
figure it out.
that's amazing that it brought you back to yoga and ceramics. I haven't really ever met someone that's like into pottery and ceramics like you. So if you could just provide me a little more context there, like what is that world about and like what do you love most about that?
Yeah, so honestly, I've been this is actually something I've been working on this month is getting more into that world because my world right now in pottery is just like my little studio, you know what I mean? And all those people around me. I've been trying to get myself more out there with like galleries and just like going to things and talking to people about it and getting like more ideas because I feel like I've kind of hit this point where like I feel a little stagnant because I just love being in my studio with like headphones on, like being in my own little world. But yeah, I'm kind of discovering that a little bit more because really my background was just in high school. I did like AP 3D art, which my medium was just clay. Um, and yeah, just expanding on that a little bit more. I did this when did I do it? A couple months ago, I started posting every day on TikTok, like consistently. And that kind of forced me to start discovering like um, new things to build, sell, just to create. And that really like opened my eyes and inspired me to eventually start making the lamps that I sell now. Um, but yeah, that's kind of where it got me today. Just like creating something new every day and seeing what sticks and then like expanding on that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that creativity aspect is super fun. I know to like be able to live in that and even make a business out of that is super rewarding, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. It's been fun and definitely put me out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, and that was another thing when I kind of reached out to you and to see if you'd like to be on this podcast. You mentioned you're committing to doing some things that force you outside of the comfort zone this year.
Yes, I love being comfortable, as does everyone. But my roommate and I just recently started doing like weekly meetings and just speaking out our goals. I think it's really important to vocalize like what you're trying to do, maybe not with everyone, but like just having that one person for accountability, and just being like, hey, I want to do this. Can you help me like break down or like give me ideas of how you think I can get there, who I can reach out to make it easier, which I have a hard time with. I'm like, I want to do this alone. But it's actually good to have it with other people to either push you or just have some insight on it. So yeah, we've been doing that every week. And one of my goals for like the month is just to do more things that make me uncomfortable. One of them being this. Another one today I'm actually doing. Today's just an uncomfortable day for me. I'm going on a photo shoot with just like a photographer I don't know and like another girl, and it's usually just like one person, like one model shooting and like a photographer if it's just like a test shoot, but I'm doing it with another girl, which is fine. I'm just like, it's a little harder to do because you have to like really be in the zone and like in the same energy, or else it kind of shows in the pictures. So those are my uncomfortable tasks of the day.
Amazing. And yeah, I think that's so key that you mentioned like to have an accountability partner, whether it be a family member or a roommate or just like a really good friend. It's so important, I think, because we can really sometimes run ourselves in a circle around some things that we really want to bring through or like force ourselves to do. But if we just let ourselves sit in that and stew and we don't voice it or try to get someone else's perspective or their little bit of, just a little nudge they could give us of, hey, you got this, you can go do it. It really helps.
Yeah, I was actually reading this book this morning, The Untethered Soul. Have you read it?
I haven't, but I've heard this
It's
twice in the
really
past like couple weeks.
good. It's really good. You should read it. But we kind of come up with these ideas and stories in our heads, and that just like creates walls in our head. It's like, oh, okay, I want to go on a hike tomorrow. Maybe this person will cover me, and then maybe this person will go with me on the hike. It's like you already made up this like predetermined plan in your head. And it's like, well, where you just made like a finite idea or like an infinite idea or like plan finite. Like you just put up these walls, and if anything else were to go differently, it would completely disrupt you, like your energy and you. And yeah, I mean, I'm guilty of this. Just making up stories in my head of like why it won't work or like why I can't do that. Yeah, so that's something I'm working on and is a constant
Yeah.
work for sure.
Yeah, that's a super interesting perspective. I definitely need to check out that. Oh my gosh, this mug that she's drinking out of looks so
Oh,
amazing.
I
It looks like
made
she
it.
made it. Wow.
I made it
Wow,
because this
wow,
is the
wow.
only appropriate size for a matcha cup.
Yeah, it's like the bigger the better, right?
It's literally maybe half the size of my head, actually.
I recently bought a huge mug like that at the San Diego Zoo, and it's like me and my mom
Mhm.
like fight over it. We're like, we want that mug. Like, there's something about a big mug, right? Whether
Oh,
it's with your
yeah.
matcha or your coffee or your cacao. Like,
Oh, yeah. How was that? You did a certification?
yeah, so Natalie is kind of bringing up something I was telling her about when we were right before we hopped on, which is I just returned from uh, Guatemala doing a 7-day intensive like cacao practitioner program where we're literally diving into the medicinal benefits of cacao, into the permaculture and agroforestry side, into the social business components, and then into the ceremonial components like holding sacred space and things like that. And yeah, it was an amazing journey, and I definitely learned so much about Theobroma cacao. And on the East Coast and West Coast, it definitely is kind of like a big thing. A lot of people know about it. but really getting to go to the source and seeing the hands of the farmers and the women's collectives that cultivate the cacao and prepare the cacao so that it eventually can come to us is super rewarding. And yeah, just a blessing in itself. And to get to go there and kind of get those people's blessings of, hey, like I would love to bring this medicine back for my community, um, was super awesome.
That sounds amazing. And was that through?
It's through a company called Cacao Source.
Okay.
Um, yeah, definitely go check them out. They have another program coming up. I think like the 13th of March, actually, at the Mystical Yoga Farm on Lake Etalan.
Mm.
So yes, that if you're interested in cacao, definitely go check out their program, check out their company. Cacao is an amazing food, an amazing medicine, an amazing skincare tool, hair care, like the cacao butter. Like these women, these Mayan women, like eat cacao, drink cacao, like use the butter daily, and like they look years and years younger. Keeps their skin so um like vibrant.
They just glow. It's crazy how we've diverted so much from the like natural medicines that can really heal, and we just take these pills instead. We go so far from it. It's
I,
like people just want an instant like band-aid now. Like they don't want to work for
yeah,
it. I mean, it's not very accessible is the thing too, which I get, but how do we
yeah.
make it more accessible?
This is the thing. Yeah, it's accessibility, and that's with these plant medicines. That's with multitude of other ones. That's with yoga. That's with education. That's a huge tenet of permaculture, which Cacao Source is really about permaculture and really preserving the natural ways of cacao and how it's grown in the jungle. And yeah, providing accessible education, like for the people that are even growing it and that are in those communities, so that they continue to use those practices, and we can apply that same accessibility to that education to our communities back here in the States and wherever you may be around the world of, hey, like, whether it be a podcast or a blog or a TikTok or an Instagram, how are we through our own journeys of self-healing and optimization and all these things we're learning, how are we speaking these out into the world and helping other people kind of catch on to, like, one, the benefits we've seen in our own lives, but the tangible benefits that are scientifically proven to be there with a lot of these things.
Yeah, I think it's something that I've been trying to like plan. I haven't really done anything, but I want to kind of integrate more of Sam talks about this a lot, just like nurturing your community instead of like looking for more and more people, instead of like just need more
Yeah.
instead of nurturing and like educating and like loving and holding space. That's just not a thing anymore. Like I actually really love my yoga studio here in Los Angeles. They do community classes once a week, which is so great because a lot of people is just not accessible at all. Like you just donate however much you can and all of that. But yeah, how do we make that even more accessible in cities like this? Because everything's so expensive.
Yeah.
Like even my yoga membership, like it's a reach, but I have the like privilege of being able to prioritize that, and which not many people do.
Yeah, well, I think this is an awesome thread to really pull through and to continue to keep top of mind for ourselves and others out there about, obviously these things are leading to amazing um, like benefits in our lives and we feel those benefits. And it's like, we really want to extend that out to people that may not have the money or may not know, their way around these spaces, or may not feel like they fit in these spaces. And that's why I know, you kind of know with Sam, it's like all about creating um a place for everyone, a space for all the diversity to come into a space. And yoga should be inclusive for everyone. It shouldn't be exclusive to skill set, to color, to gender, any of those things. And what's cool, I think, when we talk about Cacao, is Cacao really teaches us um like biodiversity, and how cacao is such a symbiotic organism that like cacao prefers to grow in the jungle with like everything else. It wants avocado, it wants papaya, it wants banana, it wants
Mm.
bamboo. It like wants all these things, and together they thrive. And so, you know, us as humans, all of our different gifts, all of our different um, things we bring to the world, to our communities, to our workspaces, finding what that is, and then, how that fits into the bigger puzzle, and that we all are not exactly the same, and that all of our gifts should be honored. And together, it just creates this beautiful symphony, and it's reflected in how nature works in harmony.
Yeah, for sure. Everyone has something completely different to offer. And that's taken me a while to get here. I think the past couple of years have been very hard for me to define that. Um, one like thing that really helped me was finding like three things and getting really good at them. Just like finding three things that you love and being the top of those people. And then through that, like you build confidence and like really speak and stand with confidence. That's something that's like advice I wish I had back in the day. So if
Yeah,
anyone's feeling lost,
that is
that
so
and
good.
it
Yeah.
provides so much like value to not only, I mean, yourself, but like your community and um from that unraveling and just like planning different ways of how to give back or yeah, that just helped me a lot to define.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because I think that especially in the world of wellness and yeah, health and wellness and spirituality and yoga and these things, that even just self-development in itself can sometimes seem like it can become like a huge task. Like I got to read all these books, I got to do all these practices. And I always come back to the quote by Bruce Lee about, fear not the man that practices 10,000 kicks one time, but the man that practices one kick 10,000 times. And I'm improving myself on this too, because my
Mm.
personality type too likes to pick up a lot of skills and try a lot of things out, which is beautiful. But in in the information age we're in, there's so much out there, and you're never going to catch up to all of it. You're never going to be able to learn all of it. So, yeah, picking three things you really want to focus your time and energy into, because we only have a finite amount of time to do so. That's really beautiful.
For sure. I think we're also at this age of like picking up everything and like seeing what sticks. And that's definitely like necessary to be able to pick out, those three topics that you think you can get really good at. Um, so yeah, there is like a time and place to go pick up everything and anything. At one point, I mean, what haven't I picked up actually? I was like, I'm gonna be a real estate agent. I'm gonna do drop shipping. I was literally thought of everything. I'm gonna be a investor. I don't even know. I was just
You
looking for anything and everything.
you get pulled in by all those like Instagram like funnels
I
they
just
have these days.
I just really wanted to like make money fast
Yeah.
at some point in my life. I was like, this is how to make money. But living in LA, it's really taught me like you can be it's money is infinite here, you know, like there's really no guideline or like borders of how much you can make. You know, anywhere else, I feel like in the world, like Europe or just literally anywhere outside of the US, it's very like confined and like restricted. But here you can literally, I mean, there's people making millions off of playing video games. You know what I mean? It's, you can make up whatever. And if you really are consistent and work at it, you can make it. You can make it happen.
Yeah, and also when you say that, like how has your like money mindset maybe evolved over time? Like how do you relate to money at this moment now?
I definitely, this is something I've been working on. I had a very like very what's it, scarcity mindset. It was very scarce growing up. Um, which I understand like growing up in the environment that I did grow up in. I definitely still have that in my head. There's thankfully been like a lot of people coming in my life and just hanging out around that have like made me understand better like where like why I act out of like fear sometimes with money or like you know you can't get rich by saving money is what helped me understand like all right, you know, I'm not saving on this, I just have to work more, like work harder and smarter to get there instead of like trying to save every little bit and piece.
Yeah, and also like I see like you travel a lot and stuff, and I'm sure you do that with work and with modeling, but like is life experience like something that's important to you and like making sure you invest in that as well? Because I feel sometimes like, people may save up hundreds of thousands of dollars and find themselves, in ill health or in their later years in life and be like, wow, like I was saving up and then I realized like, I should have been at least spending it on some experiences, some travel and things.
Right. I recently, this is also from Untethered Soul. Um, there is no like there is no guideline of how life is supposed to be unless you're like following the go to school, get a corporate job, climb the corporate ladder. That's how you will make it. But you'll never be free. You know what I mean? And there is no way that life is supposed to be. We can kind of get that from our parents, engraving it into our heads, but you can literally make life however you want it to be. There literally is no, there are no parameters except for your mind, you
Yeah.
know? And um, I think traveling helps open my eyes to the things that are going on. Like it makes my problems feel very small when you are walking around Colombia and a teacher, like an elementary school teacher, tells you that there's his kids get like sex trafficked and everything seems so much smaller. You know, like all my problems seem so much smaller, and having those experiences and like really seeing what's going on in the world. Like I live in a bubble here, you know, LA is literally La La Land. This is not, I'm so aware it's not real life. I'm
Yeah.
so glad that I get to live here, but there's so much shit going on. Like walking in Cairo and just seeing what goes on, how these kids live, like homeless kids and like with no parents, and women not being able to walk down the street alone because I was literally terrified to walk down the street. It was very eye-opening, and that's something that is very important to me, is traveling and seeing like what's happening and not just, I don't know, not just being in a bubble.
Yeah. It's like you can return to the bubble, but like go out of the bubble and like expand your vision and like see and experience. It's like, but yeah, you're right. Like it does really bring me a lot of like gratitude for like my community and like America in itself. Cause sometimes we can get very hypercritical on like our states or our
Mhm.
country, and then go out to realize, wow, like these problems are kind of rather small.
Yeah, I mean, we're privileged enough to like have these quote unquote big problems here. Like the problems that we have, they are huge problems, but to see where the rest of the world is, it's like, oh, we get to walk down the woman get to walk down the street and not be scared for their lives, or just people get to walk down without fearing that there's going to be a bomb, like on their house in like the next day, so yeah, that's very it's honestly very grounding for me coming back, and like as you said, coming back to your community, and like I appreciate it more, like all my friends and how we like even communicate, like being having the knowledge to know how to communicate
Hmm.
is a privilege, because I grew up in a household and like also just with friends that really didn't know how to express or communicate their emotions. And I think Los Angeles is like a very big city with a lot of fortunate people that have accessibility to things like therapy and just like all these, like yoga retreats, which really help you get grounded and understand how to express your feelings.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important for all of us to continue to develop is on the a level of like emotional intelligence is like because for a lot of us like in the generation that we're in is like so different, and I think so much of like the younger generations have like a lot of like emotional intelligence to them, but the older generations, and nothing against them, they just weren't raised with those being passed down the family lines. So it's almost as if like when we're doing the work, we're kind of working on the level of our family as well, like our mom and dad's our relationships change depending on like the more and more we develop our ability to kind of like know the needs of the other, but also know our own needs, and to be able to, cater to that, and to really just know how to tell people like for their personality or like how they see life, like to properly see them for what they are, to properly hear them. And that goes back to just listening, right? And I think that's something that in travel and meeting people from around the world, and if you really just open up your ears and just sit there and listen, like there's always so much wisdom to be heeded um, by open ears.
For sure. And just like now, I mean, as a society, we've evolved so much and we have the privilege of like really being able to turn in and focus on ourselves. Whereas like our parents just don't like, there was just so much crazy stuff going on. My parents were in Poland and had to leave because there was nothing on the shelves in the stores to like there was no food, so there was no time to think about, oh, how am I talking to my parents, or how am I responding to them? Is this respectful? Like, am I being mean? Am I being rude? And we are privileged enough to like not, or I can't speak for everyone, but I feel privileged, like am privileged to be able to sit there with my feelings and be like, okay, because there's not really many external things threatening me right
Yeah,
now.
you as far as like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like when more and more of our lower level needs are met, we're able to go into these
Mm.
more introspective states, and yeah, have the time to do these because we're not immediately at threat of our survival and things like that. And I think it's cool in travel and stuff at times, or if we do ever get put in those situations, to kind of notice what arises when we might be a little bit stripped of that and we have to go back to the basics. Um, but it's also wonderful to spend time in self-introspection. And I think where the difference between like the self-introspection that's so focused on the self, that's like more ego based, and that really inflates the ego in a way, versus like the self exploration that you're doing to really like liberate not only yourself but your family, the people around you, your community. That's where I think the gold is in the our ability to get into these states of introspection for more than our own, evolution.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah, so I have a couple more questions here. I've loved every minute of this so far. We've kind of gone down a lot of interesting topics.
My
Um,
brain is like, let's go here, let's go here.
uh, yeah, when you said um earlier about like our mind like being the one that sets parameters on our life, like that was something like when I first started following you on Instagram, I was like, Natalia just gets it. Like she's just like living life to like the way she wants to live it. You posted something like jumping around in the snow the other day, and you were just like, it was like snow day, like no work, or you were just
Life is
like
canceled.
yeah, life is canceled for the day. Like this is something that's so needed in our day and age, is like getting back to that play. Like we get so focused on our careers and our goals and our self-development, and it's like we never just sometimes just say, fuck it, I'm just gonna go play in the snow. We need to get back to that.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of my friends actually have reached out. Only two, but they reached out and they were like, I have so much structure in my life. I just wanna have some play. And I was like, I have so much play in my life. I need some structure.
Yeah, it's like
We can help each other out.
yes.
Um, so yeah, a lot of people don't have like the privilege of just like choosing their own schedule, which kind of does make it hard, like you can't just do how you please. You have people like depending on you and stuff like that. But even like when you're cooking, like turn on some music, like you put on like your favorite music, just like dance, everything's so serious and like I just got to get this done, like I have to do my dinner, like put on some music, dance. I hate cooking too, like do
Yeah.
what you got to do. um
Yeah,
yeah,
like
just finding like little moments, like seeing if you can have like a child's mind in a lot of the things that you do. And also just not being connected to your phone, that's something that like, yeah, I have to like post here and there on TikTok mostly and like Instagram, but put your phone down. Don't consume everything. Like, do not just be a consumer. Definitely like post and stuff like that. Just put down your phone. And I think nature is a really big help for me. Just like going out and like going on a hike or running through a field or like literally just plopping in the sand and sitting your ass down and just absorbing the sun. That always helps for me.
yeah, I think you're spot on with that. Because depending on where someone's life and their like what they're doing, it's going to depend on how much free time I guess they have. But it's like you said, it's like making space for those playful moments, whether it be cooking a meal or washing the dishes, or and yeah, like inviting like a fun playful attitude toward like things that we don't love to do always, maybe like cook and wash the dishes, or yeah, just get outside, get some sun, feel the wind on your skin, run
Yeah.
around, jump around. I don't know if you hula hoop, jump rope, like
Just do anything, try everything. I mean, kayaking, like walking around, literally anything you can get your hands on. It's just about feeling like a child again. Do a cartwheel, do whatever you need to do.
and I think that's something that I really took away from like the yoga teacher training that was beyond, the yoga certificate, which really the whole thing was like so much bigger than that. But it's
Mm,
remembering that our inner child, cultivating times to play with our inner child, and however we find to do that, it's so beneficial for our overall health.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but that yoga teacher training was so transformational. We're like both like, yeah, nodding our heads.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, I think the structure helped me like mentally a lot because I never like really had structure. Um, but obviously just how Sam spoke, how Karen spoke, like, oh, everyone just sat there like ears open, mouth shut, tell us everything you can. That was such a pivotal moment in my life. I was really going through a lot of like just body image issues, and that completely just it just completely withered away. It was gone. Literally took 21 days for me to be
Yeah.
mentally there, which was great.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing. And I agree completely that Sacred Path Yoga is an amazing school if you're interested in doing a yoga teacher training. They have trainings like around the world. I actually ran into Darren and Lacey in Guatemala,
No way. You
walking
just
down
ran
Hippie
into them?
Alley in Lake Etalon. Yeah, they invited me to their house and stuff. I really like appreciated the invitation and I wanted to go because they had an alumni event, but didn't end up fitting time in the schedule. But yeah, so I just ran into them and they were like, "Oh, you were at our Costa Rica training."
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
they're amazing people and all of the instructors.
Do they live there or?
They have a house in yeah,
Hmm.
right above. I think they live in Florida and then they have a place there too.
I don't know about you, but I'm itching for my 500 hour. Like, when am I doing that?
I
Do
have a
you
little
teach
bit
at
of
all?
yeah, I started teaching a few classes here and there at some studios close by. I'm not gonna take on like a lot of teaching at the moment or like teaching big classes, but I want to continue to get myself out of the comfort zone, and just
Mhm.
like especially while it's fresh, and I've taught some classes and all of them are good, but I'm probably my own worst enemy and I'm so like it has to be perfect and it's got to be like that perfectionist and you're nodding your head like you probably struggle with this too. It's just like
Yeah.
I'm like 90% good is good enough. And like, cause you take a class from Sam or like Karen and you're just like, oh my gosh, like I want to be that. And it's like it takes time. You have to observe your teachers, but you have to practice, and every chess master was once a beginner. And I say that to myself for yoga, for this podcast, for all of my future endeavors is hey, you got to put your one foot in front of the next each day. And eventually you're going to look back and be like, wow, I've come so far.
Yeah, for sure. I think I've seen that a lot in my even just posting the content on TikTok. Like I've seen a massive I'm just going up, like it's not getting worse. But I lost my train of thought.
You're good. Hey, it happens. Uh, yeah. So, uh, I have another question here. Before my ending question, I just want to know, like, do you have a favorite quote, mantra, or verse that you live your life by?
Hmm, that's a good one. Um, I think this is literally written in like a little piece of wood in my house in New Jersey. Your thoughts become things. It's literally from The Secret, but that was such a pivotal book for me as anyone that's ever read it. It's such a classic, but it really stuck for me. Your thoughts become things. Like literally everything that you think, whether it be negative or positive, it's going to come into your life if you keep thinking about it in that way. Um, so yeah, I try to be selective of my thoughts, even though they do creep in, the negative ones. It's
Yeah.
just
And
about,
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And that's something that I've heard too about that and the law of attraction too. Like that I've heard recently that it's like we have to learn to, yes, like negative thoughts might lead to a negative outcome, but it's our ability to like also like not repress these thoughts, like the darker thoughts, I guess, sometimes. And like if we can accept them and let them move through and like understand what they're trying to tell us, but not like I think the more like we really let our brain spin out on them, that's I feel like when we might lead ourselves down to creating some things in our life that we might not want to experience. But
Yeah,
I'm not an expert on that.
it's completely just like realizing like there is a voice in your head and it's not you, it's just constantly going, and realizing that it's just your thoughts and not like who you are is really important, to just be like, oh, like people are thinking that too, but is that who I really am? And just recognizing that and being conscious of it.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out. I think that is really important. Yeah, so to cap the show off, I like to ask, when you hear the words live thrivingly, what comes to your mind?
Hmm. Hmm. Don't do anything that you don't want. I mean, not maybe not like taxes and like you know, eventually your job if you're trying to like break free of that. But like if you don't want to go hang out with that person, don't go hang out with that person. If you want to go run up a hill, go run up a hill. I think like being able to do whatever you want is a privilege, but also like you can get there if you let yourself get there.
Yeah, so kind of like setting and honoring your personal boundaries of like create like living the life you want to live and not people pleasing and not yeah.
That's a huge one for me. I love to people please.
We have a lot of similarities because I struggle with the same things. Are you uh any last words from you that you want to voice before we
Mm, Thank you for bringing me out of my comfort zone. And thank you for having me and thinking of me to be on the show. This was great. Not as nerve-wracking as I thought it would be.
see?
You were really great host and really made me feel comfortable. So thank you for that.
You're so welcome. Thank you for being here. Um, where can viewers connect with you?
Um, Best would be Instagram or TikTok. Both of those platforms are Natalia Konopka with two K's at the end. So it's Natalia Konopka. I know it's
Awesome.
a hard
And these will
one.
be in the description, um, and a link to her website as well with her super cool Polish ceramic lamps. Check them out. And I don't know if she has mugs yet. I hope she gets those on there sometime because I want to
Not
get one of
yet,
these
but
mugs.
soon.
Uh, where are we at?